Welcome back to the Malt Miller YouTube channel, Homebrewers. And in this video, we're going to be taking something that actually we touched on in our last video a little bit further. And we're going to be looking today at how you can perform a closed loop transfer into a keg from a Fermzilla. Rob, what are the benefits then of us performing a closed loop transfer from a fermenter into a keg?
We touched on this last time and it basically gives you the same benefits. So we are looking at absolute minimal oxygen contact with our beer.
The other benefit of this method is if you're being quite cautious with the amount of CO2 you want to actually use when you're transferring, this method also saves some of that CO2 that you may use if you were looking at other methods of pressure transferring.
Just going on a little bit further than that though, James, there are methods that you can use during the brewing process to save and really scrimp on CO2 usage. Now, we're not going to go into those in this video particularly, and this video isn't particularly about saving CO2, and there are ways that you can transfer under pressure from a pressure vessel into a keg using more CO2 and sometimes possibly easier.
Yeah.
But this is a closed loop method.
Excellent. Now, before we get too far into this process, we just want to say, if you're a home brewer and you've only just discovered our YouTube channel, please make sure you subscribe. We've got an absolute stack load of content for you to enjoy. And also, if you hit the bell for notifications, you'll be able to stay up to date with everything we do here at the Malt Miller.
James, let's get this process started.
Now in our Fermzilla here, Rob, I have a West Coast Pale Ale that I've alluded to in a few other videos. It's a fantastic beer, but there's quite a lot of hops in here, so I'm really keen to make sure we take advantage of the low oxygen benefits that we've talked about, okay?
Yeah.
It's been in here fermenting. I've maybe taken a little bit out already for sampling, as I've already mentioned in the previous video, and we bottled some as well to be sharing with some people that we want to share this recipe with. What else do we need to perform this closed loop method?
Right, we need some jumper lines. Now, just to explain, a jumper line is really simple. It's a length of beer or gas line with the same colour disconnect on each line. Therefore, we can run beer out to beer out on a keg.
Yeah, and the benefit of that is you're then taking advantage of the dip tube in the keg so that you're running the finished product right to the bottom, less splashing, not knocking CO2 out.
And yeah, making it as gentle as process as possible.
Yeah, and then we've got another jumper line for transference of gas as and when we need to in the process as well, right?
Gas to gas, we've got a gas bottle with a regulator, and we've also got an empty jug here because we've got our keg, which is what we're going to fill into, has got sanitizer in at the moment, which we're going to utilise to sanitize the lines and also dump all of the oxygen out of this keg so we know that the keg is generally full of CO2 rather than oxygen.
Yeah, excellent. And it's worth noting that we're using a 9 litre keg today, and the reason for that is that actually we've already taken quite a bit of beer out of here. You could do this method with any size keg that you need, as long as it's similar in volume to the amount of finished beer that you've fermented, right?
Exactly. Just before we start this, you have to still use gravity. And that's a really important part of it.
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, let's move on to sanitizing our lines. How are we going to do that?
Well, we've got a keg full of, a keg with some sanitizer in it. All we need to do is add the lines, make sure that we've got some gas in here, squirt it out into our receptacle jug.
Excellent.
Right, we're going to start by making sure that there is CO2 in our keg.
Yeah, are you going to dump some of that CO2 out to flush it as well, to make sure there's no oxygen in here?
That's exactly what I'm going to do, James.
Cool, so we've got gas flushing into there. We're going to open the PRV to blow the oxygen out.
I think that'll do it.
Yeah, excellent. So we're now pressurised.
Yep.
Which line are we going to be flushing first?
We are going to be doing our liquid line. So I am going to take one of these off and I'm going to chuck it in our receptacle. I'm then going to push the liquid line.
Right, and so we can see we've got liquid sanitizer flowing through. Just lift that up. There we go. And we're going to dump all of the sanitizer out, right?
We're going to dump all the sanitizer out, yeah. Once we've done that, we are going to do the same. We're going to do the same with our gas line.
Yeah. So we know now that by dumping that out, we've purged it of sanitizer, and that's now full of CO2.
Yes. Right, so that's that line sorted. Let's do our gas line. So we'll take that off. Take that off. That can go in there as well. So we're using the rest of the CO2 in here. So actually, I'm going to take this back out of here. Can you push that on?
Yep.
Awesome. Boom, there we go.
Excellent. So now we've got 2 lines that are fully purged and safe to receive beer, right?
Exactly that.
So the next part then, I guess, Rob, is that we need to make sure we've got a certain amount of pressure in our fermenter, so that we know that the flow will start, because we want less pressure in the keg, don't we?
Yeah, exactly that. So I'm going to top the pressure up in here.
And so what PSI is that now reading on the regulator on our keg?
Doesn't really matter, because we just want it to be more in here than there is in there. But just for argument's sake, that went up to 20 PSI.
Right, okay, cool.
All right. So I'm now going to dump almost all of the pressure out of here.
Yep.
All right, just going to leave a little bit in there. So we know that there's way less pressure in here than there is in there.
Yep.
And now we can add our jumper lines.
Fab. So first jumper line we need to add for this process is the beer line, right? So if I connect that up to the keg first,
Yep.
on it goes. Now we will get flow immediately because we know that we've got positive pressure in here versus in the keg.
Yeah.
So let's hook that up and we can see our beer is flowing down into the keg. Now, there will come a point where the pressure will probably equalize, and at that point we need to then think about using gravity and moving our keg onto the floor and hooking up the gas line so that the positive pressure that then has built up as we've compressed the gas in here, we can use to top up the pressure in our fermenter.
You would think that we could do the same thing by just opening up the PRV on the fermenter, but the whole reason that we don't want to do that is because we don't want to introduce oxygen in there.
Absolutely.
So we're using the excess CO2 from the keg to push back into the fermenter, and the weight of the beer in the line is keeping it flowing.
Yeah, excellent. It's almost like you're creating a siphon, like a forced siphon almost, aren't you?
It's exactly that.
So we can see that we're flowing quite freely at the moment. The level in the Fermzilla is going down nicely.
Yeah.
Probably at this point we want to move our keg onto the floor.
Yeah, well, just for ease sake, I'm going to add the gas line this side.
Yeah.
All right. I can now put the keg on the floor and then add the gas line to the top of the Fermzilla.
There we go. And now it's just a case of patience whilst it flows. It can take a few minutes, but trust in the process and you will end up with all your beer in the keg in, as we've said, that completely controlled and oxygen-free environment.
One thing, how do we know how full the keg is?
Well, there's a few ways you can do this. Some people would maybe put the keg onto a set of scales.
Yeah, and that is my chosen method.
Yeah.
It is so easy. Bathroom scales are accurate enough to be able to do it. That's the easy way of doing it.
There's 2 other ways. One, you can, if you've added the volume gauge onto your Fermzilla, that's another way of doing it. And actually my preference, and this is maybe not necessarily the way you would all want to do it, but is waiting until the flow really slows down, and you may even start to see a little bit of beer coming into the gas line.
Oh, you're dangerous. That's a dangerous move.
Yeah, but I like to be watching it and keeping an eye on it, and if I haven't been clever enough to get my bathroom scales to hand, that's one other way of doing it.
Also, if this beer is really cold, and we do like to do things as cold as possible, if this beer is really cold, you will see a line of condensation rise up the keg. And actually, it's very accurate way of measuring it. So I like to do that as well.
And we can see actually we've moved quite a lot already out of the Fermzilla into the keg. And I'm really excited because I've already tried this beer. I'm really looking forward to drinking some of it out of the keg. Okay, it's been a few minutes and we can see that we have transferred a huge amount out of our Fermzilla, and it's just starting to not flowing anymore. Rob, do you want to pick the keg up so we can...
Do you want to...
Yeah, I'll disconnect this, this line here and take that line off of there. There we go. We have now got a 9-litre keg full of beer that's carbonated, because we'd already carbonated it in the Fermzilla previously. It's pressurized because there's a bit of CO2 in there. We know that it's not got any oxygen in. How cool's that?
It's a really nice thing to do, knowing that we've brewed the beer as best we possibly can, and now we've packaged it in as carefully as we possibly can to produce the best drinking beer. That's going to be awesome. And
that's going to last for as long as possible as well, right? Because as we've already said, even just a little bit of oxygen can absolutely spoil all of that effort you've put in, right?
Absolutely, for sure.
Awesome.
So James, that is one method to close transfer from a pressure fermenter into a keg, and that was really easy.
Yeah, really nice and straightforward. You don't need a huge amount of equipment. As we've said, if you wanted to add an inline filter into the beer jumper line, you could, and that would really help if you've got a beer that's got a lot of hot matter in there potentially.
Yeah, or you could actually not worry about doing it under gravity, use more CO2 given, but you could vent it directly out of the keg, perhaps using a spunding valve.
Yep, nice.
If there are other methods that you would like us to demonstrate here, just shout us up in the comments.
And equally, if there are any other how-to videos you'd like to see us put together for you, please do so, because this channel is all about bringing you as much information as humanly possible to enhance your experience as a home brewer. All that remains for us to say is, if you've enjoyed this video and you aren't already subscribed to our channel, which we know about 75% of you aren't, please do so. Hit the bell for notifications. You can keep up to date with everything we've got going on here at the Malt Miller, and also check out some of our back catalogue of videos as well.
And of course, you can always follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter.
Isn't it called X now?